Tonight, I'm very excited to welcome Ken Kalfus, celebrating the release of A Hole in the Story. Ken Kalfus has been a finalist for the National Book Award and the Penn Faulkner Award, and he has received a Pew Fellowship in the Arts and a fellowship from the John Simon Guggenheim Memorial Foundation. He's the author of 4 novels, including 2 a.m. in Little America and Equilateral, and has published 3 short story collections. He's written for the New York Times, Harper's, The New Yorker, and the New York Review of Books, and his books have been translated into more than 10 foreign languages. Born in New York, Kalfus currently resides in Philadelphia. So please join me in welcoming to Politics and Prose, Ken Kalfus.
Thanks, Sarah, and thanks to you all for coming. I'm very happy just to be here. I've my third time, my third time reading here. Last time I was here, I was actually heckled, so I hope don't just watch yourselves, okay? And I'm going to read from my new novel, and I'm pleased to do it. I was going to read from the very beginning to give you the setup for the book, and then I'll explain a little bit about it, and I'll be happy to answer questions and heckling comments. Adam Zweig's phone lit up. It was a text. Nice work on the Yang piece. You're so right about the checks. The message was from Brad Singleton, a reporter for Axios, with whom Adam was very casually friendly. They were certainly not friendly enough to compliment each other on their stories. Few of his friends were, really. Most journalists he knew were too competitive to praise each other without being self-conscious. Praise could be seen as some kind of concession. And an acknowledgement of another reporter's praise could be tendered only with false modesty. Yeah, thanks. The story really needed another draft. Yet Adam had nailed the problem with monthly cash payments to individuals regardless of need. They were inherently regressive, privatizing resources collected for the common good. But that wasn't why Singleton had texted. Now a second message arrived. By the way, want to give you a heads up about some breaking news. Call soonest. Adam drew his hands back from the keyboard. They had already been stilled. He opened the 2 texts and reread them. He looked away from his phone, trying to think what Singleton might want. He refreshed the open tabs for the Times and the Post. Nothing, or rather, it was more shit. Breaking news at virtually every refresh. Nothing about Andrew Yang, though. He was still in the race. He seemed to have enough money to make it to Iowa. He was warm and funny, and Adam had liked him personally, even with his idiotic math pin. Adam went to Twitter. Nothing there either, or at least nothing he could imagine Singleton wanting to talk about. He told himself he could call him later. They should get at least a few more inches into universal health care this morning. But he didn't know what he would write now, and the question raised by Singleton's texts was going unanswered. But he still needed to wait a decent interval before he called back. Axios, for the second-tier publication, quick with the news, short with analysis. Adam made himself some coffee. He went back to the story and fiddled with the top 2 graphs. Then he gave in. Adam, the other reporter exclaimed, as if surprised that he called. That was some takedown. Yang has no chance anyway, right? This was particularly annoying, faithfully reflecting the horse race mindset of these Beltway website hacks, guys who couldn't bother to engage with the candidates' ideas. Adam wasn't going to play, not with his Guardian story leading the site and getting social media attention. Any reported comment about Yang's weak electoral prospects would distract from the meaningful elements of the article, which had implications for Democratic social policy beyond the campaign. What's up? You have something you want to tell me? Yes, Singleton said, pausing. He was fishing for some sign of anticipation. Adam remained silent. Fuck him. Singleton finally spoke. Dropping a register, he pronounced the name Max Lieberthol. Adam said simply, yeah? But he quickly refreshed Twitter, just in case. His first thought was that Max had died. He was struck by the first filament of a lightning bolt of grief. There was nothing at the top of his scroll or on the next screen. You used to work for Max, right? I still write for them occasionally, but I left the staff a long time ago. Yeah, but you were a writer and editor for them in 1999, Singleton confirmed, evidently looking at notes. So listen, here's the story. He's been Me Too'd. He's accused of sexual harassment. Adam was visited by another lightning bolt, but this one wasn't grief. It was a harbinger of heavy weather. That's too bad, Adam said lightly, suppressing any indication that he was being cautious. In the past couple of years, a large number of men in journalism and the media, an abundance of men, an overabundance of men, an overflowing superfluity of men of diverse ages and marital circumstances have been accused of sexual harassment in the work environment, encompassing various degrees of severity, from rape to attempted rape, to demanding sexual favors for promotion, to groping, to unsolicited back massages, to unexpected kisses. The sexual harassment continuum expanding to include what had seemed to Adam like a vast expanse of male-female interactions. A lewd remark. A collegial meal in a restaurant that, somewhere between the first and second martinis, started to feel like a date. A compliment on an article of clothing. Eyes that rested a moment too long on a figure. Flirtatious remark between a man and a woman of unequal professional status. Almost always, or in fact, always, given the male-dominated structure of society, the man was the one with the more advanced professional status. There had been a widely circulated Google spreadsheet, shitty media men, naming men said to have taken advantage of their positions, mostly in New York. These men and others were losing their jobs and the possibility of getting new ones. It hardly took more than an accusation, every charge being sadly plausible, men being what they were. Adam was aware that his casual response could be construed as insufficient. Very bad, he added, dropping a register himself. He's denied it, of course. Adam said, in sonorous, multi-claused sentences sprinkled with high-flown word choices, I'm sure. Singleton chuckled. Adam hoped the remark would create some kind of confidence between them, giving the impression of candor. Yeah, he issued a statement. I haven't spoken to him directly. Good luck with the story, Adam said affably. I'm not sure I can help you. It's been so many years since I worked there, but I'll read the piece with interest. Thanks, Singleton said. That sounded like actual gratitude. The woman's name is Valerie Iovine. Do you remember her? Get him off the phone. Get him off the phone. The main thing now was to think this through. The main thing now was to get Singleton off the phone without sounding like he wanted to get him off the phone. Adam knew how to do this. People he interviewed did it to him all the time. Of course I remember her, Adam said with enthusiasm, most of which was genuine. She was a regular writer for us, on the environment, a contributing writer, I think. I believe she went to a daily in Virginia. Oh, damn, it's her? The charge was pretty serious. Direct sexual advance in his office. She had gone in to discuss a story. Adam maintained his tone of warm appreciation. She was a solid reporter, a Harvard graduate, I think. I was sorry I had to lose track of her. Yale. You remember anything about her relationship with Max? Adam breathed audibly into the phone to indicate he was thinking. Indeed, he was, mostly about how to get Singleton off the phone. then to consider the implications of Valerie's charges and what might happen next. He said, Max was probably as big a pain in the ass with her as he was with everyone else. I don't know about anything personal. I never saw anything. Listen, Brad, thanks for letting me know, but I'm on deadline. Me too, Singleton admitted. Adam congratulated himself for the cup of coffee. The reporter said, I'm not the only one chasing this, but I wanted to ask you about the office environment. Come on, Adam said sharply. It was 20 years ago, and I worked mostly at home, and I really have to go. Singleton conceded that he needed to file before he got beat. He called back for the follow-up. This story was going to have legs. Sure, Brad, but I don't know what I can tell you, Adam said. But then, to show that he wasn't in an incriminating rush to get off the phone, he added, hey, give my best to Helena. Let's go for a drink sometime. Singleton said, okay, pleasantly startled and probably flattered that one of the Capitol's senior political writers remembered his girlfriend's name. The three of them had run into each other a few months ago at Blackfin. They had chatted for no more than a minute. Adam marveled that he just pulled her name out of his hat. She had been wearing super skinny white jeans that sat well short of her low suede boots. He gave himself no points for remembering the turn of her bare ankle. There was said nothing on Twitter, at least not about Max. Trump was early this morning at 2:13, criticizing the Japanese prime minister for visiting Iran. And then up again at 6:21 to praise Mike Flynn, his former national security advisor, who was charged with lying to the FBI about his contacts with the Russian ambassador. The president was still lashing out at the fake news media and his FBI director after he was criticized for saying he'd accept political dirt about an election opponent from Russia or other foreign governments. I meet and talk to foreign governments every day. He cited as example the Queen of England and the Prince of Wales, W-H-A-L-E-S. Meanwhile, anticipation was building for Democrats' first two presidential debates later this month. And Press Secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders was stepping down. Someone on Twitter said they wouldn't believe it until they heard her deny it with her own mouth. Damn. Valerie Iovine, damn. Adam had watched Valerie go into Max's private office and shut the door that afternoon 20 years earlier. He was technically the first so-called outcry witness. Okay, thank you. Thanks. So thank you. I think you see where this story is going. I think I've established in the beginning here that Adam has a little bit more complicated history with Valerie and Max than he's letting on at first. He will have to. This history will become exposed as his novel goes on. But right now, he's trying to think how he's going to deal with what he sees is going to be what he expects is going to be a big issue. In fact, the novel takes place. The most of the foreground action of the novel takes place in the next 24 hours, and it includes a media storm, a Twitter storm that a Twitter superstorm that feels superstorm to the people inside it, not necessarily to the world at large. But it goes back 20 years earlier to what had happened and to what the environment was actually like in the magazine office where he worked. So as you see, I consider this is a comic novel, even though I'm dealing with a serious subject, and hopefully the readers will get what I'm trying to do with it, and also laugh. So anyway, that's my story. I'm sticking with it. So if people have comments or questions, I guess this is being taped for posterity. Even though we're not a huge crowd, they would like you to stand Oh, there's a microphone right over there. So if you want to, if you have a question, please come up and I'll answer them. Yeah, thanks.
Well, I thought it was interesting that you're putting Twitter in the novel. Of course, that's today's world. And the other, I think you had another reference to something we're doing in politics right now, but as well as, recreational. What I wondered was, what about cell phones? I've read a number of contemporary novels that either ignore them entirely or put the action in, say, the 1970s so they don't have to deal with the fact that someone can't not know where someone else is.
Well, you can turn off location.
Huh?
You can turn off your location.
Oh yeah, I've turned mine off.
Okay.
But yes, you can turn off your locator.
But it's a very good point. Oh, go on. Yeah, I'm sorry. Finish
yeah,
it. Yeah.
no, that's really my point.
No, it's a really good point. And novelists nowadays have to deal with these technologies and decide how they're going to affect the story. And if you think about it, cell phones have changed the way. I mean, it used to be like people were not always home. You called them, and there used to be a thing in books. People want to go to somebody, they would go to their house rather than calling them on the phone. But nowadays, yeah, it's an issue. So some writers do ignore them. And in my previous novel, which was set in some sort of my previous novel, 2 a.m. in Little America, is set in some sort of indefinite near future. There's no conversation. There's no discussion of cell phones at all. No one talks about. I mean, I just don't bring it up. Other writers have used. In the 90s, there was a whole bunch of epistolary novels. People felt they had to write about a novel set in email. So writers have tried to use technologies like this. And of course, there were. Conversation. Years ago, there might have been a novel set as phone calls. So, it is the author's choice, and it does change how you. I'm going to talk about this at length now because this is actually an interesting issue. One of the things I find sometimes a lot of work with in my plot making is schlepping the characters from one place to the other in order to get them to meet and have this thing. And I kind of found with this novel, maybe that doesn't have to happen. A great deal of this novel takes place as a Twitter direct mail exchange. So he can stay in his office and everything else can happen. So good deal of so the next 24 hours, there is one. He does leave his home office for a visit to the Trump hotel and whatever it was. But otherwise, everything's happening to him online or on phone, and that was a decision I made, and it ended up being a theme of the novel. So I'm glad you asked me that question because it does actually go to how I wrote it.
I also there's a William Gaddis novel, J.R.
Yeah.
And there's the scene that I always remember and was impressed with was some characters are coming down the street on a New York City street, and another person's in the phone booth, and the novel transitions from the conversation in the phone booth to the people walking by the phone.
That's cool.
Booth.
That's cool. That's cool. Yeah.
That was pretty cool.
Yeah. So all that, all the way that, again, this is all that stuff is interesting to me. How the outside, in all my books, how the outside media have affects our way we live, our way of consciousness. So yeah. So that's all great. Thank you. Thanks. Any other questions or comments? Okay, sure, Peter.
Why not?
Why not? Why not, indeed?
I guess I have two. The second question I'm not sure I can ask, but
Don't ask it,
because it's
please.
about the ending. But
Okay.
the first one, I'm curious why you decided to take on Me Too as a subject. And then, without discussing the specifics, some people might read the ending as deeply cynical.
Okay. Let me answer this. Let me answer the second question. I don't intend for it to be deeply cynical. I mean, it's not. I'll discuss that. I'll discuss the. Thanks for reading it. I decided to take this on. I mean, at a time of people coming forward with these stories of sexual, I'm sure many of us will remember. There's a lot of stories, not only in the media, but among when the Me Too, which I found it became unfortunately a trivializing term, but still it was an important phenomenon in our society. That not only were people in the media coming to it, everybody, it seemed, particularly women, had stories. Friends of mine, stories they would tell me that say, oh, that wasn't exactly harassment, but it made me uncomfortable. Or something happened. That was weird, or something like that. And a lot of men would tell stories, looking back at something and what did that mean, and how was that taken, that kind of stuff. So one of the things that the Me Too, or the sexual harassment charges generated was a lot of conversations in society itself, and a lot of stories. I mean, I heard a lot of stories from people, and novelists love stories, and the stories were like, some of them were sad, some of them were awful, some of them were funny, some of them were awful and funny at the same time, and they all shed light on human character and just on the character of society. So for a novelist, that's a rich mine, and I can say a lot of those stories were immersed in a cloud of. The stories were complicated. There was ambiguity, there was nuance, there was ways that different people could see the same incident different ways. Again, that's for a novelist. That's very can be very productive. So I just wanted to play with those stories, and this character, the character Adam Zweig, appears in an earlier short story of mine, of my most recent book of short stories. The book is called Coup de Foudre, but the actual story is called Mr. Iraq, where he's a Washington journalist, writing for this magazine, supportive of the Iraq War, and he gets a lot of shit. He gets a lot of shit from his family, and that again was like that kind of contradictions, those kind of complications are interesting, and for me, kind of comic or and humor. So that's why I was drawn to that. And as far as I don't consider the book cynical, I hope it's human. The ending is not exactly what is not the more realistic ending we might expect, but I don't want to say too much about it, except I want to say something about this about this book. Although there are journalists in it, and they're often not behaving well, and I have great deal of regards for journalism as an institution, and recognize that journalism, that it's an institution peopled by human beings like anybody else, and they fail, they succeed. It's a mixed bag. So that's my idea about that. Anyone else? Oh, okay, Laura, thank you.
So I haven't read this book yet, but I wanted to talk about 2 a.m. in Little America. Like,
Okay.
there's a bit of prescience.
I'm afraid so.
So kudos to you. No.
Yeah, I'd rather. Yeah,
But
yeah.
can you talk a little bit about that for people
Sure. I
maybe
should
haven't read
explain
it?
briefly. My previous novel takes place a little bit. It came out in 2022. It's set in some indefinite time in the very near future when things have really gone bad here in the United States politically, and a lot of young Americans, particularly, are fleeing the country to because the economy falls apart, because there's something like a civil war, something happening. I wasn't. I mean, but one of the things that's in this novel is that they flee the country into a world that no longer welcomes Americans like we're accustomed to. Our visa doesn't give us the ability to travel everywhere or settle everywhere. I mean, they still don't. So, I wasn't anticipating. I wasn't really thinking about. I mean, I sold the book right after January 6th, so that definitely helped sell the book to my publisher. But when I was writing it, I don't know what I was expecting. I was mostly fearing things. I spent a year in Yugoslavia, the first year of the Civil War, and I was mostly thinking about. I mean, Yugoslavia was a great country. I loved it. If it could happen there, it can happen anywhere, including our country. So I was mostly thinking about how objective history gets minimized, gets destroyed, how people get polarized from the media, and how that can lead to terrible things. So yeah, people have been coming to me saying, yeah, it's a sad. I can't even begin to tell you how sad I am about that, and I don't know to what degree. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen next. Thank. In light or not in light. Not in light. Yeah. Thank you. Okay. Yes. I'm sorry. They asked me to ask you to go to the microphone. Can you go to the microphone? Because they're filming it. I don't know where they're filming it from, but they're filming it. They're filming it, and they want it.
I should have dressed up.
Thank you.
I've noticed over time that novelists really do have an ear to the ground, and are not just about people's emotions and that, but actually things that are going to happen. So an example is in what was it called? The Human Animal, something, a Philip Roth novel.
You mean Stain? Great novel.
No, not the. No, actually,
the dying animal.
The Dying Animal.
Okay.
That was it.
Hey, you can't stump me on a Philip Roth novel. I'll tell you that.
Right. So I was reading it in a friend's home in Los Angeles in the summer of 2001, and I didn't want to take his book home, so I left it there, and I didn't pick it up again until 2002, around January, when I was reading it in the Library of Congress. And here he says, well, a chapter starts, we spent the New Year's Eve together, and Osama bin Laden didn't blow things up in America. So he wrote that
before
in 2001, before. And had I not read it in these two parts, I probably wouldn't have realized the not coincidence, but the way he saw the future. So I really.
Or he had his ear to the ground in Al Qaeda with Al Qaeda. I don't know. That's amazing.
Yeah, and yeah, it was something. So I've thought since, I've taught many novels, and I've thought the novelists, they somehow aren't listening to all the buzz that the rest of us listen to, and they're hearing something very real about people, obviously, but also about the society. So I look forward to reading your book.
Well, thank you. I mean, I don't know. I mean, So I'm a writer who does like read the papers and read the magazines, and I do care about the news. Some writers are just don't care about that, and it's you know, every writer's different. I think in this particular case with 2 a.m. That was like kind of bad luck, actually. Yeah, I mean, Philip Roth obviously had his was very keen, had a very keen appreciation of what was happening in the world. I mean, not just with bin Laden, but with the world in general. He read the newspapers. He cared.
Yeah.
If you read the book, one of his Israel book, Operation
Right.
Shylock.
Uh-huh.
I mean, it's very much. It reads well up to October 7th. It read perfectly well for 20 years later as a description of Israel and American Jews in Israel. And yeah, he definitely had his head to the ground. And okay, I'm going to keep talking on this issue, but you know, there was something the writer Nathaniel Rich wrote a piece in the New York Review of Books a while back, talking about something called punctual fiction, where about writers who write about current events as they're happening. I'm not necessarily one of them, but he cited in that book Ernest Hemingway's not Son Also Rises, For Whom the Bell Tolls, about the Spanish Civil War, written while the Spanish Civil War was still in progress and the ending not even known. So you know, there's something to be said for writers who can seize the moment and make a good fictional story out of that, for sure. Yeah. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Hello.
Hi.
I got here a little late, so I don't know if you talked about it already.
Oh,
But
you missed the best part. No.
I was wondering if you could go into like your process of writing the book. Like as an established author, you probably have a different process than like a first-time writer or something.
Okay. Well, I do make thanks for the question. I do make a lot of notes. Let's say I'm a big note maker, and I've always been. And I try. I usually start with some sort of often a joke or just an idea, something that gives me an idea of the voice. Writers will always tell you, "Oh, I start with the characters and I put them together. I see what happens." That's such hogwash. We want you to think that's what's happening, but no. I don't start like that. So I make a lot of notes. I try to get an idea what it's going to sound like, what the themes are, what the ideas are, and the notes will go on maybe for years. I mean, my first novel was published in 2003 from notes I wrote in the mid-1980s, and my third novel was published in 2013 from notes I wrote in the late 80s. So oftentimes I'm collecting string for a long time. And I make outlines. I do outline it. I try to figure out how things are going to go. I'm always wrong. I always find, well, what was I thinking about? You know, I realize halfway through that I haven't really thought it out well. I do try to figure out where it's going. I do think, as part of my process, that I make it a voice, make it the beginning, but I do want to see where I'm going to end up, even if I'm not sure how I'm going to get there. So I don't know, is that helpful? Is there a more specific question you were going to ask?
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for the question. Thank you. Okay. Anyone? Thanks for the questions, and thanks for listening to me. And I'm going to sign books if people would like me to sign them, or sign other people's books if you want, and because they have a lot here, so I'm happy to sign anybody's book, Ernest Hemingway's books, whatever. Okay. So thanks a lot. I'll be right here. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for coming out. Copies of Ken's book are up at the register for purchase. We'll begin the signing line right here with me. If you can help fold up your chairs, lean them against something sturdy, we'd appreciate it. Thanks.